Good morning all my retards, how y'all fuckers doing? This video has like a 100% chance of getting demonetized because it's about politics, so why the fuck would I censor myself? So recently I've been getting a lot of comments about my political position. I literally had Nazi fan art of me and Antifa fan art done of me. So I think a lot of people are confused where I lie politically. Like, some people see me as a disgusting, evil, conservative anti-SJW. And other people see me as a bread tuber who turned his back on the anti-SJW community. So I decided that I'm going to go over my current political views in this video. I'm going to go through my opinion on economics, BLM, LGBT, feminism, religion, my opinion on freedom versus safety, my views on America, the president, and all that good shit. If you disagree with any of my political opinions, get the fuck off my channel. I don't even expect half of you to agree with all of my political opinions, so if you disagree with me, that's fine, we can agree to disagree. But please, for the love of God, don't be one of those people who twist what I say into the worst version it can be possible. But before I get to that, I have to talk about my upbringing. I grew up in a very Christian conservative family, and was homeschooled for most of my life. I hated every minute of it. My motherboard was a super hardcore Christian conservative robot. She taught me that abortion was murder, that communism was the worst thing ever, and being gay was immoral. You know, all that classic Christian conservative stuff. I talked about this a little bit in my video how I almost committed self-deletion, and some people have fucking used it against me, which I don't know why. You do know that most people tend to disagree with their parents' political views, right? And when I say my motherboard was a super hardcore Christian conservative robot, I'm not saying she thought I was going to hell for playing Dungeons & Dragons, no. Me and one of my friends got really into Nostalgia Critic, and we were mocking one of the movies he reviewed, the Dungeons & Dragons movie with Jeremy Irons. And that was enough for her to think I was a Satan worshipper. She tried to control every aspect of my life and brainwashed me as much as she could to get me to believe everything she believed in. She really fucked me up with how much she kept me isolated. If I disagreed with her on anything, it meant I was going to hell. My motherboard used to have a personality outside of being a Christian, but over time she just, flanderized herself. It's all she wants to talk about, and she keeps using the same boring, tired arguments over and over. Look at the sun. That means God is real, and it also means my God, specifically, is real. And I just don't mean my God as in Jesus, I mean the version of him I think of. Anyone who disagrees with my version is going to hell. It really sucks because whether I'm a Christian or not, she thinks I'm going to suffer for all eternity. And she thinks, despite trying to brainwash me for 15 years, it will just take her another 15 minutes for me to completely change my worldview and agree with everything she says. She's not a flat earther, but she does have a few flat earther friends, but my motherboard is a young earther, and she did everything she could to teach me that the earth was only 6,000 years old. I'm so thankful to my fatherboard for being somewhat of a centrist. Well, he's not too big of a fan of the LGBT community. He has a lot more nuances to the way he thinks, and he's a pretty chill Christian. But of course, my motherboard still thinks he's going to hell. Now I could go on and on about my motherboard, but I don't want this video just to be about her. I just need to use it to explain what my upbringing was kind of like, because I do believe your upbringing really affects your political views. Now, I also grew up in the most liberal state of all, California. And I mean the liberal parts of California, I wasn't living in the upper part of the state. Thanks to my motherboard, my views on conservatives wasn't really all that positive. But thanks to a lot of the really hardcore liberals in California, I wasn't really on their side either. Maybe I'll go over why in another video, but I don't want this to be too long. So for now, I just want to say, I'm not a liberal, I'm not a conservative, and I'm not a centrist. Liberals and conservatives tend to want too much control over my life for me to like them. And centrists just hold up the status quo. In a world full of Nazis, a Nazi is a centrist. In a world full of communists, a communist is a centrist. Socially, politically, I identify as a libertarian. I believe if you want to spend time with your same-sex partner defending your marijuana fields with shotguns, go for it.
Now, politically speaking, I consider myself to be a libertarian. I say if you want to be with your same-sex partner defending your marijuana fields with shotguns, go for it.
But what about my views on economics? Am I one of those libertarians who believe taxation is theft and you shouldn't need a driver's license to drive a car? Well, I'm not an economics YouTuber. I rarely, if ever, talk about economics on any of my YouTube videos. All I know is right now everybody treats socialism like it's the greatest thing ever, even though almost everyone I ask about it tend to have completely different views on what socialism actually is. But a lot of people just pretend to be socialist. A good example of this is the OK TikTok boomer girl in the Bernie shirt.
Whatever you say, boomer. Okay, boomer. Yeah, boomer. Whatever you say, boomer.
Because surprise, surprise, she's a champagne socialist and lives in a $2 million apartment. Was I surprised when I found this out? No. It's kind of funny when you watch a YouTuber who's originally a communist, but once they start making more and more money, they become more of a socialist. Then eventually they just want specific things like free healthcare or free education. I think a lot of YouTubers just pretend to be socialists because it sounds like the moral thing to do, and it's something they'll never have to deal with the consequences of because it's never going to get past Congress. Like, I'm a bit of a Bernie bro, but I'm a Bernie bro because I know it will be the greatest thing ever. He won't get a single policy passed. I'm a bit of a fan of UBI, but that's because I think it would be way better than, the system we have now with food stamps and unemployment checks. Plus, 9 times out of 10 when a socialist or communist state gets created, it ends up becoming state capitalism. Don't get me wrong, I do see a lot of problems with our healthcare system and our school system, but I have a lot more faith in socialism and communism when there's, a lot more automation and our technology advances much more. I mean, let's be honest here, us robots like me are already taking all the human jobs, and once AI is powerful enough and basically every single job is taken over by a machine, then you won't need to work to make a living, and humans can focus more on the arts. Also, why is it that almost every socialist or communist I know don't have a job? I'm not saying you can't have an opinion on economics if you don't have a job, but what I am saying is that no one is going to take you seriously. So what I am saying is that I'm not an economics YouTuber. If you want an economics YouTuber, go watch Vows or Seamus or some shit. Now, as for my opinion on the LGBT community, well, first of all, I don't think the LGBT community is really real. Gays have their own separate problems from lesbians. Trans people have their own separate problems from lesbians. And you shouldn't always just lump them all into the same category. I think maybe gays do have it worse than lesbians, because I met a lot of people who don't support gay marriage but are totally cool with lesbians. And right-wing trans people are the funniest fucking people I've ever met in my life. In fact, my childhood friend who was homeschooled like me and became trans was actually the one who radicalized me into becoming an anti-SJW. Because of my mother, I became homophobic, but over time I became way more accepting of the LGBT community.
Being exposed to all the hate towards the gay community, I quickly became homophobic. Hating on gay people became part of my lifestyle.
But I support them for kind of libertarian reasons. Basically, hey, they ain't hurting anyone. It's their own life decisions. Let them make it. But according to a Bible, it's a sin. Yeah, well, so is eating pork, so who gives a shit? As for trans people, I honestly really don't get it, and I've tried so hard. A lot of people said, well, imagine if you were born as a woman. And to be honest, I don't think I would give a shit. If I became a woman right now, all I would think is, oh fuck, now I have to deal with bleeding from my vagina every month. I might get canceled for saying this, but trans people are actually really good for advancing medical science, because doctors have learned so much more about the human body by putting people on hormone replacement therapy. When you get down to it, it's pretty much the only form of legal human experimentation. And yes, gender reassignment surgery is still in its testing phase. I understand non-binary people even less, like I can't really comprehend how you can not identify as a gender.
What are you doing? He's clearly a Nazi!
Actually, it's they're clearly a Nazi.
Wait, what?
I really would prefer you use my they them pronouns.
But you're a Nazi!
Nazi.
Trust me, I've talked to a lot of non-binary people and I've tried my best to understand it, but I just can't wrap my head around it. But at the same time, I'm a libertarian, identify with what you want, and I'll do my best to call you by your preferred pronouns. Now don't get me wrong, a lot of people, most of which are on Twitter, are very annoying when it comes to their preferred pronouns. You know what I'm talking about when you say to someone, bro, calm down, and then they scream, my pronouns are they, them, you're so transphobic. I'm not gonna lie, people who identify as non-binary in real life are 100 times less annoying than non-binary people online. I don't even think trans people and non-binary people should be put in the same category. I mean, it's a bit different when someone is born as a man and they wear dresses in public and they want to go by she, her pronouns so they can feel more comfortable with their gender identity, than someone who says, hey, I don't feel like 100% of a man or 100% of a woman, so call me by they, them pronouns. Like, there are a lot of people who argue if non-binary people and trans people should be put in the same category, but I'm on the side of, no, they're in different categories. And if someone wants to use the argument it's just not natural, it is. Most lions and giraffes are gay. Frogs and clownfish can change their genders.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap.
I believe in my lifetime, or at least in the next couple hundred years, virtual reality is going to be so good that you can identify with whatever gender, species, or anything you want. In a virtual world, you can totally identify as an attack helicopter, and you can look like one too. Like in a virtual world, if I want to be a hot anime girl for a day, there's nothing stopping me from doing so. In this virtual world, even fucking otherkin will be accepted into our society. At first, sexuality was pretty simple. If you're a guy who likes guys, then you're gay. If you're a woman who likes women, then you're lesbian. If you're a guy and you like fucking women, you're straight. If you don't like fucking anyone, you're asexual. And if you like fucking anyone, then you're bisexual. But I will say trans people made everything a lot more complicated. Like, one of my friends told me that now he had a boyfriend, and when I met him, they looked exactly like a woman because he just started taking hormones. And I know this might come as a shocker to you, but as they looked more and more like a man, eventually my friend broke up with them because they're not actually gay. I just think sexuality has something more to do with, you know, someone's fucking sex than their gender identity. Like, my roommate can come out as a woman to me, but I'm not gonna suddenly find her attractive. And don't even get me started on pansexuality. What a pansexual is someone who wants to date all genders. They're not bisexuals who just want to fuck men and women. But I have a question. Has any bisexual, you know, started making out with a guy or girl and then they said, by the way, my pronouns are they, them, and then the bisexual went, ew, that's disgusting. I only date men and women, not these mystical third genders. Like, is that what pansexuals think bisexuals do? Just asking. Now let's talk about race. I just want you guys to know that I'm a pretty accepting guy when it comes to race. I like all races, even the bad ones.
No, I'm a pretty accepting person. I love all races, even the bad ones.
But in all seriousness, I know this is going to be the most controversial part of the video because I am a white cis robot. I feel a lot more comfortable talking about gender or sex than I do about race. Like, when I was really into the anti-HJW community, a lot of them talked about feminism, but a lot of them also talked about BLM. And while I did bash feminism a whole lot, I mostly skipped over BLM.
But before I can talk about my opinion on race, well, we have to define what race even is. A lot of people divide race through continents. Europe being the white continent, Africa being the black continent, Asia being the yellow continent, North America being the red continent, and South America being the brown continent. And then there are those people who think religion is a race, like Muslims or Jews. And then there are more questions, like people from India look way different from any other group of Asians, but are they Asian? They're in Asia, but then again, so is Russia. And just a couple hundred years ago, white people didn't see all white people as the same race. Back then, people said things like, ugh, God, I hate those Irish, always crossing our border, taking all the low-skilled jobs, we need to build a wall to keep them out. But hey, it could be worse. They could be like those Vikings. God, for a group that comes from a quote-unquote religion of peace, they certainly commit a lot of war crimes.
Since them Vikings came over here, we've had over 40,000 cases of our women and girls being raped. How do you explain that then? And the
fucking local council round here keeps trying to cover this whole thing up so they don't appear racist. I'm fucking sick of it.
Here's a question I like to ask people. 500 years ago, let's say you have an African guy, a European white guy, and a Native American from North America. So out of these three groups, which are the closest one DNA-wise or ancestry-wise, depending on what wording you want to use? Almost everyone I have asked actually says the Native American and the African. Want to hear something interesting about that, though? Believe it or not, the African and the European are actually the two that are closer together because they're both in the old world. The Native American is literally on the other end of the planet compared to the other two. People say there's absolutely no biological difference between the races. Then how do you explain how white people burn up in the sun faster than darker-skinned people? And what about height? I mean, it's objective that on average, Northern Europeans are bigger than other Europeans. Race is a hell of a lot more than just skin color. And I do think there are slight biological differences. But at the same time, it's nothing major. You can take two different breeds of tiger who look exactly the same, and they'll have more differences in their DNA than someone from the New World and someone from, I don't know, Australia? And I mean the native Australians.
I also believe to a certain extent everybody has slight unconscious racial biases, so technically everybody is just a little bit racist. In the same way, everybody technically is a liar. Now, I have noticed that black people, and yes, I do prefer to use the term black people over African American because not all black people are from Africa, are a lot more different from other racial minorities in America. Now, there are a few reasons for this. Slavery. But slavery has a lot more to do with how we look at race than you might think. Let's say there's a white guy who's fourth generation Irish. Well, he probably knows his ancestry dates back to Ireland, but black people in America were taken from, well, all over the continent. So it's a lot harder for them to connect with, their people of origin. However, DNA testing is making this a lot easier as time goes on. An Asian guy in America who has Korean parents know that his family origins date back to Korea. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that black people in America can't really trace their, family origins in the same way other minority groups can. Because of this, a lot of them have made a subculture within America. Even their own unique accent, mostly based off of the southern accent. A lot of people got upset with me when I said, "Guys, I'm not black. I don't even think I sound black. How did you come to that conclusion?" There were a few people who were like, "What? Are you saying, black people sound the same?" Okay, you guys know what I fucking mean, Jesus Christ.
Stop being so damn offended.
I mean, for the love of God, my black roommate sounds way more white than I do. When me and my roommate became friends, I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was a white guy and he thought I was black. And we used to troll people by asking, "Hey, which one of us do you think is black?" And they would always pick me. And I do want to share more of my thoughts on race, but honestly I want to stop because race is a lot more of a hot button issue than gender or sexuality. The last thing I want to say about race is my whole opinion on BLM. Well, BLM is not perfect and it has a few bad apples in it. I mostly agree with what they're trying to achieve. I mean, the police, when you really get down to it, are a government monopoly. And when you tell the government, no matter what you do, you can't fail, we'll still pay taxes anyways, then you can't really be surprised when they fuck up over and over and over again. Am I saying we need private police officers? No, but I think it would be nice if we gave private security companies just a little bit more power. I mean, if someone from Bald Eagle Security messes up, then the company has to, change and fix what they're doing or they'll lose out on money. Now, being a police officer is a really hard job. Like, I see these people out here saying shit like, the police are cowards. And I'm like, bitch, you don't have a job. You wouldn't be able to do half of what they do. I do think it's wrong that it's harder to become a soldier than it is to become a police officer, and we definitely need to change that. But if you're a police officer and you walk up to someone to give them a ticket and they pull out a gun and shoot you, then I can understand why a police officer might accidentally shoot someone. Not saying it's acceptable at all. I'm just saying I can understand why being a police officer for even 1 year can really weigh on someone's mental health. And this is more of a problem in America than it is in, say, the UK, cause, well, in America we have a lot more fucking guns. Where me and most people in BLM disagree is that BLM thinks we should decrease the police budget, while I think we should increase it. Update the police equipment. Give them more mini drones so they don't have to walk up to someone's car to give them a ticket. They can just fly over a drone while sitting in the safety of their car, greatly decreasing the chances of both them and the person they're giving a ticket to of getting shot. We should do more thorough background checks and give police officers more therapy. And we can afford this by just cutting back on the military budget just a little, because holy shit, do we overfund the military way too much. And raising and lowering the police budget probably won't really affect their paychecks, it will just affect what equipment they use. And I think this is a good place to slide into my opinions on America. I do think America is the greatest country on earth. It's the one superpower that's a first world country. We made it to the moon. We beat both the Nazis and the communists. But at the same time, holy shit, America really needs to update their healthcare, education, police, and many other systems that they just seem to refuse to update. The war in Iraq was a stupid war that really didn't need to happen. And while America does set up military bases in a lot of countries, and a lot of countries don't like that, I guarantee you'd rather have America be there than China or Russia. At least you get to enjoy your porn. As for the president, a lot of people seem to think I hate Obama, and I don't. Yeah, I voted for Trump because I really hated Hillary. I would pick Obama over Hillary, and Trump over Hillary. I think McCain would have made a fine president, but, you know, Obama also made a pretty fine president. I usually vote for the president who's most anti-establishment, and there's no one more pro-establishment than Hillary. And I do consider Obama to be the first black president. I see a lot of people saying he was the first interracial president, and well, yeah, he is technically interracial. So are most people who identify as black. Being the president is a really hard job. Look at how much it aged Obama. Obama lost time and Trump gained mass. Have many presidents, if not all presidents, committed a few war crimes and done a few terrible things? Yes. And a lot of people do see America as the bad guy. I just see America as the lesser of the three evils when you compare it to China and Russia. As for my thoughts on religion, I don't think it's inherently evil. Religion is a tool, and like all tools, it can be used for good and bad. But I do think it needs to definitely be kept out of politics more. There's really nothing wrong with being progressive or wanting things to be a little bit more diverse. The problem is when people bring up things that people have done years ago and hold it against them and won't allow them to be redeemed in any way. Yes, my roommate really hates it when people say, "You're really articulate for a black man." But he doesn't think anyone who says that should have their life fucking ruined. Now, I do have a lot more I want to say about my thoughts on politics, but this video certainly is long enough already. But after this video, I'm not going to be uploading any more political videos on this channel. Go to my old channel if you want to see more political videos, because that's where I'm going to be uploading them from here on out. If you have any more questions for me, feel free to ask them in my comment section, and I'll do my best to answer them.